You're listening to the International Moving Podcast, your guide to moving to another country, brought to you by SDC International Shipping, LA's finest. An international move is exciting. It's a time to start over, establish a new business maybe, reestablish family ties, or retire where your budget will do more for you. Please enjoy today's episode, and if you have any questions about your international move, give us a call at 888-779-3962. That's 888-779-3962. All right, welcome back, everyone. This is Jim. You are listening to the International Moving Podcast. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about a combination of things: remote work, global relocation, and the future of moving in 2025. And when you really think about it, over the last several years, we've seen such a push for working remotely. Now, I know if you follow the news closely, especially when we're talking about government employees working remotely, that seems to be coming to an end for the most part here in the U.S., and I kind of understand why. Now, it's funny because I'm making this podcast remotely, not from an office, and there are certain instances where it makes sense to work from an office. Now, I've talked to remote workers from around the world, remote workers in India, Canada, here in the United States, and when we compare that type of remote work to what we hear as far as remote workers who work for the government are concerned, I think the major difference is that the government already has all of this real estate, all of these buildings that were occupied with workers until everything shut down in 2020. And then when everything reopened again, the people who were working from home preferred working from home, and I understand why. I mean, it takes an effort to get up in the morning and get ready for work, on all the things that go into that preparation time. I know some people do a lot of preparation at night for the next morning because they're not really morning people, and I would kind of fit into that category myself if I were in that situation. But I know what it's like to commute, and I can only imagine what it would be like if not just the U.S. government, but any government, of course, is going to be located in a busy city district, lots of people living there. And when you compare what it's like to work from home to what it's like to have to prepare to go to an office and make the commute both ways, excuse me, regardless of the distance, I think most people would choose to work from home. But in other cases, they're finding that it just does not make sense to do so. I know a lot of the larger social media companies prefer that maybe the experienced workers, the people that have been there a long time, they're eligible to work from home, whereas the people who aren't at that level yet seem to perform better in an office location. And a lot of effort went into doing that. Now, this is a little bit different from the entrepreneurial type of individual who's working for themselves. They're working from home. Their motivation is a little bit different than, let's say, someone who's just working for someone else. And so I guess it really depends what the person is like, what the atmosphere is like. Maybe for certain people, there would be less distraction not working from home than there would be working from home. So I've looked at it many ways. I've done it both ways. But I think going forward, what's good is that if you do have a talented person on your team or working for your company or working for your organization, that the ability to work from home today opens up some new possibilities, especially when you consider things like, I don't know, maybe babysitting, childcare. For some people, working at home works a little bit better. And depending on what you're doing, of course, some people have to actually be in front of that monitor a certain amount of hours per day if they're doing technical support or customer service or something like that, whereas other people, namely freelancers and people that work for themselves, they basically can create their own schedule. So, for example, if the average person's day starts on a Monday, They may decide that they're going to work the entire morning, take off the afternoon, and then work again at night. But these are not the typical, customer service type jobs. We're talking about people that create content, people that record podcasts, artists, designers, developers, coders, people like that. But wherever you fit in, if you've ever thought about working remotely, now I know we've seen the old pictures. I remember back in the 1990s, late 90s, they had a lot of advertisements with people sitting with a laptop on the beach. So if you've ever brought a laptop to the beach before, you know that it's not exactly the place that you would want to get any work done. Between getting sand on the equipment and in between the keys and the heat of the sun beating down where it's actually hard to see what's on the monitor, there's a lot of negative things about it. It looks great though in a photograph, but some people dream about working from the beach still. So if you're thinking about relocating and you're thinking, well, Portugal is a beautiful country, and you imagine yourself working from a cafe or maybe from a beach. Maybe you have a setup where you're on a table underneath an umbrella or something like that. Or you think about another country like an Amsterdam or Switzerland, and you imagine all of these surroundings and how those surroundings can change your life for the better. It really, your surroundings have an impact on, I don't want to say your mental health, maybe that's the right word, maybe not, but on your attitude, most definitely. If you enjoy where you are, it makes the work more pleasant. If you enjoy the people that you're working for, it makes the work more pleasant than not. But at the end of the day, we're just seeing a rise of remote workers and the opportunities of working remotely and what that does and how that's affected the work industry. Because now people are thinking, or rethinking, maybe I should say, where they're going to call home in the future, because they're no longer tied to a single office location. So people are moving across borders in search of a better life, in search of better surroundings. Some people are primarily just in search of lower costs of living, while others are just looking for a new adventure in life, opening the new chapter and deciding to do it in a different location. So today I'll talk a little bit about how remote work is fueling the global relocation trend. I'll talk a little bit about the top destinations for remote workers in 2025. We'll talk about the logistics that go into that kind of move internationally. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of the key challenges along with the solutions for relocating abroad and working remotely. So let's take a look at the rise of remote work and global relocation in general. So as I had mentioned earlier, remote work was growing in 2020, actually before 2020, but the pandemic situation accelerated it into the mainstream. So companies realized that employees could be just as productive, sometimes even more, while working from home or working from anywhere. And according to a 2025 study by Global Workplace Analytics, over 40% of professionals now have full-time remote work options available to them. Companies like Airbnb, Google, Spotify have adopted more of a hybrid approach or a fully remote work type of business model that allow employees to live outside of their office hubs. And this has led to growth in the area and for individuals that we consider to be digital nomads. And this has led to an increase in digital nomad visas and long-term residency programs designed specifically for remote workers. And the trend isn't just about flexibility, it's also about quality of life, which is one of the top reasons why people get involved or want to get involved in remote work in general. People are choosing to move to countries with a lower cost of living. They're choosing to move to places with better climates and countries that have what they consider to be more of an enriching cultural experience. Some of the top destinations now, early in 2025, include places like Portugal. Portugal is a top remote work hub in Europe thanks to the low cost of living, the nice climate there. They offer a digital nomad visa. Lisbon, Porto are just a few examples of hotspots for expats in Portugal. Spain now offers, number two, they offer a new digital nomad visa, and combined with affordable cities like Seville and Valencia, it also is a top choice for a lot of remote workers. Estonia, and they're the pioneer of the e-residency program. They offer a thriving startup ecosystem. They have very strong internet infrastructure there, and so Estonia has become a popular area. Mexico, cities like Mexico City and others are now home to many remote workers. I've actually spoke with a few people in Mexico from the UK, and they enjoy the affordability and the culture of Mexico. Thailand, which is, of course, a little bit different than Mexico, places like Bangkok continue to be favorite destinations because they offer a high quality of life at the fraction of what you would pay here in the West. Costa Rica, known as a paradise for nature lovers, Costa Rica now offers a simple digital nomad visa, and there is also a very strong expat community there. Germany, Berlin, of course, is a favorite among creatives and tech professionals. They also offer an excellent infrastructure, co-working spaces, and things like that. And then finally, Greece, known for its stunning islands, also offer an affordable digital nomad visa, and Greece is, as of 2025, really beginning to gain traction as a remote work haven. And so when you think about all of those countries, we wouldn't even be having this conversation several years in the past. And so I think it's only going to continue to grow as we move through the year into the future. Every country has its own set of visa policies. Every country has its own set of tax implications. And of course, each country has some unique lifestyle benefits. And so if you're considering a move to any of these countries or any country in general, then research the legal requirements carefully. Begin to talk to people, maybe people who already live there. You can find them online. There's groups in places like Facebook and other places where you can have communication with online expat communities. And so talking to people who've already done it, of course, you're going to want to speak to your accountant. You want to speak to an attorney and get the full picture of what's going to be involved in the move, what your responsibilities are, what those other countries are like, and especially from a legal standpoint, what can you expect, what can you not expect, what's required of you, all of that. So the logistics of how to move abroad as a remote worker, how does that start? So most of the time, the people that I've talked to, they decided beforehand that they were going to make the move. And a lot of people, the people that were able to make that decision, let's say easier than others, already committed to taking action before they had every single bit of information. And so depending on what your personality is like, you could be one of those people that, and I would tend to be more like this myself, wanting to get every single bit of information that I could about this kind of move, about what's responsible. On the positive side of, I guess you're not going to miss what could potentially be some important details. On the downside, procrastination starts to set in when you get overwhelmed with too much information. So there is, you could be considering a move in the spring. Right now, I'm making this recording in February. You've got plenty of time to do it. But once you start getting a little bit into the weeds with too much information, maybe some contradicting information, you start wondering if you're asking or speaking with the right sources, things get delayed, and the next thing you know, it is the spring, and you still haven't taken that first step in planning to do the actual move itself. And so maybe you start with researching visa and residency options. So at least you know what it's going to take to get a hold of a visa, what you'll have to do, what you'll have to fill out, because most countries now offer digital nomad visas that allow you to stay long term in that country while working remotely from home or from wherever you want to work from, coffee shops. One of my friends works from a coffee shop probably 50% of the time, and I don't really know how he does it. He's very focused and he does Zoom meetings also from coffee shops, but and he blurs out his background, but yet you can still see the shadows of people moving around in the background. To me, that would be very distracting. But most countries now offer a digital nomad visa that allows you to stay long term. Countries like Portugal also provide tax incentives. I'd already mentioned Portugal, but they do offer tax incentives for remote workers. Number two, you've got to understand the cost of living in the country. You can't just get a general idea. You actually have to start investigating that for yourself. Talk to an accountant about what your tax liabilities would be there, and let's say here, even back in the United States, so you know maybe you're not going to renounce your residency in the United States, but you're going to live in another country as an expat, and you want to know what your tax liability is back here. What if you have a home back here still or bank accounts in the U.S.? You want to get that information straight. So plan your finances, and then from there you can move to the shipping and logistics part of the move. So there's two sides that make the whole of the international move. There's a technical side with the visas and the money and how does all of that work, talking to people. There's the real estate side, which I'll talk about after the shipping. The shipping side, if you're going to do this on your own, would be quite overwhelming. That's why we suggest working with a company like ours here at STC International Shipping. But even before you take that step to contact STC, maybe you start planning about what you really want to move, what you want to store, what you want to get rid of. And then once you do that, you can go ahead and do that. And so, depending on your personality, you may have to be ruthless with what you decide to move. I know that in my own personal moves from the past, books took up a lot of space. And so, when I moved from my previous location to my current location, I had to be ruthless when it came to getting rid of books. And now I look at the bookcase behind me, and I think that if I were to move again, let's say within the next month or two, right now I would be ruthless about the books that I got rid of again. And one of the things that helped was the fact that if you have a Kindle and you have a device, well, then you can just store books on your device instead of having to buy all the extra moving boxes. And those of you who have a lot of books and have moved, you already know that those boxes get really, really heavy. And so, it's easy to break a box if you put too many in there or hurt yourself. And even if you're going to have somebody else do the entire move, you're not going to lift a box yourself, you still want to do it right. You don't want to overpack it. So the person moving the box has to, lift this back-breaking box, which is really heavy and really awkward. But so go through, decide what you want to get rid of. Maybe some things are worth storing temporarily, but that's another thing. Temporary storage makes a lot of sense, especially if you're ready to move, but the location that you'll ultimately call home in the other country isn't 100% ready yet. I know people that move, it works the same way with moving out of state. Most people will move into an apartment at first, and they'll bring their furniture and everything with them. And I know people who were deciding to move and getting everything ready for that occupancy at a certain time with a new home. A lot more things can go wrong, it seems, when you're moving into a new home than a new apartment. Because apartments are used to having everything ready on time, whereas when you're talking about a home, there can be delays. Some of them can be due to real estate and other factors. But any way you look at it, the temporary storage is available just in case, so you don't have to worry about it. Maybe some stuff you'll even store here in the U.S. temporarily. Some stuff you'll store over there until your final destination is ready for you to move in. And there's a lot of different issues that go with that. But anyway, that's just part of the shipping and logistics information. After that, you want to make sure you have the proper insurance coverage. There are all types of policies that are available. Some cover every little thing. Of course, those would be the most expensive. There are general policies that cover all of your household goods, just in case, God forbid, the ship should sink. And I was looking over the statistics just from 2024 with international shipping and the crates. And believe it or not, according to the statistics, and I didn't get into it in great detail, but according to what I saw, some of the shipping containers disappear totally. And it gave the number of times that happened. Now, I don't know if those were containers for, companies that move products over from Asia or China or Europe. I don't think those were the type of containers that household shipping companies were using. I've never heard of that happening here at SDC, that somebody's container totally disappeared. Matter of fact, I would think that would be almost impossible to happen, but who knows? And that's the reason why insurance coverage, in case of total loss, meaning the entire container is lost, they would cover everything that's on the inside. Other people just choose to insure specific items in there, like maybe they have a grand piano that they're moving, or maybe they have a lot of sensitive electronic or computer equipment, and so they decide to just insure those, meaning that when you get to your destination, if something's not working properly or something's cracked or broken, then the insurance covers it. And in order for that to work, you have to have those items professionally packed and loaded. Some people will cut corners and they'll pack certain things themselves, but if you want those items insured, 99 out of 100 times the insurance company will require that you have those items packed professionally. So SDC International Shipping is going to handle everything, all your furniture and all of that. You don't have to worry about that. That's part of the basic move. But with the little things, if you want to, pack bedding items, pillows, books that we already mentioned, and you don't want to pay for those things to be packed by someone else, you can do that too. That's why every individual move is an individual move. The quote is going to be specific to your needs. That way you're not buying more than you need, or you're not forced into a package that doesn't fit you like a glove. You can get exactly what you need. From there, you're going to definitely want to look into the Wi-Fi infrastructure and co-working spaces. So if you're going to be a remote worker, that is all the way at the top of your to-do list, just as much as everything else that's going to go into your move. Because if you don't have reliable internet, then you're not going to be able to work efficiently. So you can find plenty of expat communities online and ask about those areas. You can already, if you enjoy networking, whether it's in person or online, but especially online, there's plenty of expat communities that you can choose from. One of the other things that, now we're getting a little bit into the remote work itself, but the time differences. So a lot of workers have said that they had to set clear boundaries, because if you're working with somebody that's in an 8-hour or 5-hour time difference, and I've done this myself, you have to just realize that there's certain hours of the day that are probably not really great times to contact people or expect to be contacted back again. But there are different services that you can use, Clockify. You can just go online and just Google what time is it and put the country in there. Internet connectivity issues, again, we've talked about that. Starlink is one of the newer solutions to that if you're moving to a place that doesn't have great connection. We actually bought a Starlink ourselves, hooked it up temporarily. We're living here in the state of Florida, and it was purchased with the thought of the hurricane seasons and the internet being down. So Starlink is an option that you can look into. Sometimes people talk about the isolation issues that go with working alone, and so they choose to work from co-working spaces. That's an individual thing. To me, I find it easier working alone, to be honest, because if you're going to work alone, then you don't have the normal distractions. But on the other hand, it is nice to have people walking around in the background too. But either way, just to sum it up, the remote work is changing the way people live. And remote work is opening up opportunities for more and more people to relocate internationally. And so if you're considering a move abroad, take the time, do all the things we talked about, research the visas, plan for your finances, start getting a little bit organized. And then from there, contact a company like us at SDC International Shipping. We're here to help, here to answer questions. You can check out the website at sdcinternationalshipping.com. You can call us at 877-339-0267 if you want to talk to someone live, or you can chat live also at the website. So, all right, I think that will do it for today. If you enjoyed the episode, please go ahead, share it with a friend, share it on social media, send the link in the email, whatever works for you. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for listening. Whether you're relocating within the country or moving to the other side of the world, we're here to help from start to finish. Connect with us today at 888-779-3962. That's 888-779-3962.